My story should have ended on that mission. But somehow, I survived. Turned into some creature from my nightmares. The world I once knew is lost. My very existence is a threat to a cosmic order I didn't know existed. If heaven and hell want me dead, I won't go quietly.
What is going on, Rippa fans and Rippa fam? I am ND Andrew, aka Documandrew, aka Netflix Eric July today. Sure, why not? That's what the narrative is going to be for this afternoon. I am not Eric July. However, I am the creative manager here at the Rippaverse, and I have some very special guests with me this fine afternoon. We are going to chat nothing but Deathshroud, one of the greatest looking comic books you will ever see, and one of the funnest comic books you will ever read, which is available to pre-order right now through RippaSend. Make sure you head over there. We'll be dropping that link in the chat if it's not there already. In fact, I know it's there already because I'm the one that put it there and pinned it before the chat. I'm almost a professional YouTuber today. Look at that. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in our fantastic guests, starting with none other than the creator of Deathshroud, the head of Dream Key Productions, Chad Larsson.
Heyo!
How's it going, buddy?
Thanks for having me. I am doing fabulous on this Friday afternoon. Can't complain.
Happy to hear it. We like Friday afternoons.
Right?
We like Friday afternoons.
Doing the best I can in this maple dystopia that I live in here in Canada.
Thoughts and prayers. Maybe you could use some of Deathshroud's powers.
Exactly. I could solve a lot of... Exactly.
Might not be the worst thing ever, but welcome in, buddy. I am so happy to have you here and chat Deathshroud, because this is one of the coolest comics that I have read in a very, very, very long time. And one of the key contributors to that, in fact, one of the Dream Key contributors to that is none other than, there's going to be a lot of that throughout the show. I can't help myself. No off switch. Is the Rippaverse art director, Mr. Caanan White, one of my favorite illustrious illustrators over here. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on?
Great to have you.
Right on. Glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you here, man. I'm always happy to stream with you, always happy to chat with you. We love doing Control Z together, which, Rippaverse fam, there will be a new episode of that. It's been a busy week. That's going to get recorded probably Monday and get out to you guys before the 31st, before we leave for Bell County Comic Con. So it's a lot of things happening at once. But this stream is about Deathshroud. Now, there's actually something really cool about this stream that I want to put specific emphasis on for the people in the chat. Caanan has talked about Deathshroud before. Obviously, you were on Icon Presents. Chad, you were just recently on Icon Presents. Fantastic guy.
Hey guys, can you close?
Y'all have never actually been on the same recording or on the same stream talking about Deathshroud. It's just weird because it's kind of y'all's baby.
Exactly. First time. I'm excited.
First time indeed, yep.
All the secrets, all the secret juice is going to be revealed today.
And I'm happy to look. I have no chat. I want y'all to soak this in. I don't have control here when it comes to the NDAs. This is Chad's deal. He gets to talk about whatever the blazes he wants. I just have to sit here and be like, well, he's kind of the boss. I'm just here to help make sure the thing gets printed. That's really it. So this is Chad and Caanan's show, and I hope you guys have a great time getting some insight as to the creative process, what inspired them, how their back and forth went, and everything in between. Ladies and gentlemen of the chat, thank you for being here thus far. You guys are all awesome. Make sure you share this out. Make sure you hit like. It helps with the algorithm at YouTube, because YouTube's kind of a pain in the butt, and they don't tend to help out creators much these days unless you make a very specific type of content. So why don't you lend us a hand so we can get the word out to more people? Because this is a project worthy of not only y'all's times, but a lot more people's time as well. So honestly, let's just kick it off from the start. Chad, I know that you have had your hands in a lot of different things, but for those who are not already familiar with you, give us the quick and dirty version of your history and what kind of led you to be like, you know what, I'm gonna make not just a comic book, but I'm gonna make a badass comic book. Like what led you? What was the journey there?
Absolutely. So the quick synopsis on me: I've been an entrepreneur in the esports gaming space. I had a long tenure there for over 10 years. I started out as a professional video game player for a game called Halo 3. Then left the company that I was with, which was called Virgin Gaming by Richard Branson, to start Pro Gaming League, which was essentially a competitor. We raised a bunch of money. We built an esports arena in downtown Las Vegas by Fremont Street, and saw some big success there. I left, kind of going back to my roots, and founded another company called Team Reciprocity, which was an esports organization. We fielded like 7, 8, 9 different teams. These are all like top 3 championship contending teams. We actually had a franchise with a historic East Asia esports organization called LGD Gaming in a game called Crossfire. COVID hit us in the middle of like one of our interim financings, sent us through a loop. We had to scale down, sell a bunch of the assets, which was a horrible experience. And it got bought by a company called GameSquare, which actually now owns FaZe. Then after that, I was like, okay, that was a frustrating experience. I want to dabble into owning my own IP, because as like with Pro Gaming League and Team Reciprocity, you are always beholden to the IP holders, whether that was, the video game publishers themselves, right? So I was like, well, I can't make a video game right yet, because that's going to be $500 million. So I need something that's a little bit lower barrier of entry. And that was comic books. And I've always loved and collected comic books, comic book art. And so I was like, hey, why don't I take a stab at, bringing to life something that I'm very passionate about, my own universe. So I I put money where my mouth is, and put in a ton of money into this project, brought in some silent partners as well. And we hit the ground running with some top talent. Again, because I'm not from this space, I'm not a known writer. I knew that I had to surround myself with top talent, which is why the first part of the story was built with Caanan White, who everyone here is familiar with, and one of the best artists to do it. So very, very blessed to have Caanan be such an integral part of the universe.
Absolutely. And I love that mindset, because it can be easy, especially, how do I want to phrase this? Especially because creatives, we can have not me, I'm not a creative here. I'm constantly surrounded by people that can write or draw. I just get to watch them do their thing, which is fun and enjoyable for me. But it can be easy to get a big head about you, or have a sense of entitlement and think that just because you made a thing, or just because you have an idea, that is automatically entitled to success, entitled to people's time and money, hard-earned money. And you came at it with the mentality of, I'm a nobody in this space. Yes, you were absolutely a name like in the gaming community, but that doesn't automatically translate one-to-one, right? And so you were like, you had the right mentality about it. You said, okay, I'm going to surround myself with people who are known in this space, people who know what they're doing, people who are not just professionals, but like some of the best of the best. And so obviously you get and it's kind of mind-boggling actually, because there are a lot of, you know, like Indiegogos or Kickstarters or whatever that'll get some like pretty good names on like variant covers and things like that. But you didn't just go for like some pretty good names. I mean, you get Caanan White on interiors for the first issue, right? For the first chapter. You end up getting V. Ken Marion, who's, you know, somebody whose work I love. You get Ryan Stegman on covers. You get Brett Booth, all these, you know, In-Hyuk Lee, just name after name. These are guys that are like regularly doing mainstream industry work, right? And so there's a lot to be said for that. And there's, like, to your credit, like, my hat's off to you, man, because you didn't just want to surround yourself with people who are in the industry and have been doing it for a while, but you wanted to surround yourself with like the best of the best, because like you said, you are not a known entity in this sphere, the comic book space, right? And so you wanted to make sure that you had confidence in your project. So you said, you know what, I'm confident in this, that I can have the artistic talent there to elevate it to the tier where people are going to want to pay attention to this and want to keep an eye out for it. And I think that was the right mentality to have, and I think it was bang on.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was, I knew very well going into it who my target audience was, which was people that collected comic books in the 90s and early 2000s. And
it's me.
And you know, Greg Capullo. I know everybody. You know, Todd McFarlane, Greg Capullo. These are well-established names that people love. But that was, I wanted to kind of get that type of quality, right? And comics is such a visual media that you know, if you don't have great art, it can sometimes deter people from taking note of your product. So I was like, I know the story that I'm telling. I know the type of product I want. I know the art direction that we want to go in. And there's a very few shortlist people that can pull that off. And I'd actually found Caanan while researching. I'd found him randomly through I don't know if it was through Instagram but he had done a Venom like headshot busk, and I was like, wow, that's like incredible. And then it was like, and then obviously he's got work on ArtStation, and then I learned all about him at that point. But yeah, I was like, this artwork is too good to be true. Who is this man?
That's what I say every single time he turns in a piece. This man has the audacity to put up a fully rendered image of whatever character, pick your poison, on X or on his social media and call it a warm-up sketch. So I'm like, man, get out of here.
I love those warm-up sketches.
Warm-up sketch, yeah.
They are.
It's just a little warm-up, cover-worthy warm-up sketch.
Right. Your warm-up sketches beat a lot of variant covers that end up being like your incentive variants, right, at LCSs, where it's like the shop themselves first has to order 25 or 50 of the cover A before they even get a copy of this one, right? So it's enough of you.
They really are warm-ups. Yeah,
I believe you. It's to your credit. You're just that gosh dang good, man. You really are. And you have a humility about you and about your work, but also a student's mindset, which is crazy because you're always elevating all the other artists around you. You know, I get to see it with how you've elevated Igor and Marcos and everybody that we contract over at the Rippaverse. And so it's astounding to be surrounded by people who are so talented, but also humble about it. Like, and wanting to constantly improve. And you talk about wanting to constantly tweak your style, even if it's only like 1% of your craft. If that's a 1% you can improve upon. And that's that mentality to have for writing, for art, for anything, business, whatever it is. What's even 1% this week that I can improve on over last week? And if I just keep doing that, I'm only going to improve more and more over time. But Caanan, what was it like when Chad first reached out to you to kind of like pitch the idea of Deathshroud to you, and what did that back and forth look like? This is going to be the first time people are going to be hearing really about this from like both mouths.
It was honestly, you know, up front, it was a gig.
because at the time when we were coming, I think it's 2018 or somewhere around there. Most of my work has been in the indie space. I've done, but I've done a lot of kind of like big projects, probably that a lot of people don't know of, unless you investigate or look into, even doing Harlem Hellfighters to, the book Son of Shaolin through Image, which was pretty huge at the time. Both got opted as movie, deals and stuff like that through the companies and stuff like that. So, but most of the things I've done are basically have been in that indie space, and I've always been of the mindset of never really settle. Like all those are good accolades, but I know the business, man. I know, they can bait you, put your name in lights. Yeah, you're on all these different medias and all this, but at the same time, man, it's business, so it's like, I'm on to the next thing, so that was kind of my mindset. And so coming up on Deathshroud, it was a cool concept. He presented it in a way he's like it's Spawn, and then I knew he loves Venom, so like a little bit of all those kind of combinations, predominantly Spawn though. And so I was like, okay, we'll see what it looks like. And then he explained kind of the story. And at the time, I was like, man, like nobody's really done anything quite like this. You take the horror element of things, you mix it with the military and war stuff. So if you're a fan of Tom Clancy type Rainbow Six type stuff, had elements of that in there. And then, like I said, Spawn, the people who are, a fan of the gritty, edgy, adult type content, meaning the violence and stuff like that. It was a combination of all that. And so I think at the time I was wanting to kind of do something a little different as far as comic wise. Worked on a lot of stuff, man, but the dark and the gritty stuff wasn't really something that I did a lot of. And so it was always cool to kind of stretch and cut my teeth on something unique and something different. And so, he has explained the initial character. I don't think he even had a concept yet. I don't think about it. I think it was just kind of the idea. And so he was like, the cloak, and I want to make sure, make it kind of alive, because it's almost like for lack of a better term, man, paying homage to one of his favorite, creators, which was Tom McFarlane, and what he did with Spawn. And I think that's one of the beauties of Spawn, man. Spawn has always been who he is, such ahead of its time, and so creating a character. I mean, like big shoes to fill, but I feel like, Chad created a character that pays homage to that, but at the same time has his own marches in his own lane. And so that was what was unique. That's one thing I like working with indie creators, because the concepts, just when you think you've seen every type of character, it's like, because the mainstream is kind of in the loophole, you can only do so much. But I think that's the beauty of Spawn and Deathshroud, and even what we do at the Rippaverse. The playground is infinite. It's new. It's fresh. It's something different. And he introduced Cobalt City. Man, I was like, man, this is like the darkest gothic. If goth took over an entire city, and just kind of a hard way to describe it, like an oppression of darkness. That's manifested itself in the city. Everything's wrong that can be wrong. Everything that's corrupt is corrupt. But in the midst of all that, even what's seemingly evil is actually a force for good. And the method in which it's being done, maybe people may question the methods, but I won't go too much in the story, because I know Chad would like to elaborate on that. But death is an intricate part, and death is amoral. It doesn't matter if you're good, if you're bad, if you're a male, female, animal, death comes to everyone. Yeah, what'd you say?
I said death comes for us all. We don't. There's no. There's no reprieve just because you're one thing or another.
No, it's the reality of it all. And so taking, like the trailer says, what if Death decided to create something? And you're like, how can Death create something? And so, the whole story of just, this unassuming child who may seem like he's innocent, and just the whole setup of how, Deathshroud came to be, man, was just like
Super dark.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. It
is.
was such a unique concept, the pact with his mom, and the oath that she gave, and you realize that Deathshroud he's the quintessential anomaly, on the playing field. He shouldn't exist. So it's like, it's like breaking the rules. Like, wait a minute, your role, like Drago always says, know your role. Death's role is to consume and take life, at the end. But at the same time, when you think of that, Death really doesn't answer even to anything because he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Even Celestials die, So at the end of the day, he's more powerful than. And there's a scene in one of the he's probably my favorite character. I love Deathshroud, but his dad, dude, Death is like
his dad's a bad dude.
Man, I love it. Look, man, like it's like, we took the concept of the Grim Reaper, man, and made him cool.
I love the shoulder pads, like the upside down mouth on those pauldrons was so
they
cool.
look so good.
And
it looks so good.
It's Deathshroud, and that was the whole thing, creating the concept for Deathshroud, and which was one of the appeals. You can see that he represents death because there's elements of death in his suit. But at the same time, you can tell that he's something different. And so, like I said, not going too much, we got a lot to, to unpack, man. But, that was, once we started doing the conceptual stuff, and Chad really kind of let me, he set the parameter. Oh my God, dude, look at that dude, that scythe. Woo! Like, dude, like
that design is chef's kiss.
and the way, the way he drew that, man, it was like, I mean, that's just his MO. I mean, that's how he does it, man. But he took the concept and just, he made it pop. It has that Joe Madera kind of vibe, man. Dark Siders, dark, it's kind of vibe, man. And this was right up his alley. And so, being able to come up with something that was fresh enough and unique enough, man, but still felt familiar. Like, I know one of the things that, hopefully it's going to do all the questions, but at the time, when I watched the interview you had, Chad, with Icon Presents, and, you talking about the inspiration. One of the inspirations for me, for Deathshroud, because we were like, we want to make sure that he almost feels alien, too. So he wasn't just like death. So it wasn't just a skull, and it wasn't just like even elements of Spawn, but we also wanted to feel extraterrestrial.
Do you remember, Caanan, what that specific inspiration was for you at that time?
Yeah, it was Warframe.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the game. That was and I remember I saw that. I was like, the art, even when even to the reclaimer that we created, like that was the whole thing. I always loved how Warframe, the concept art and the characters looked. The game was a little suspect, but but the actual the concept, man, was just like. And when I say suspect, it's just the quality of the game. I mean, it could have been way better. I mean, it was like a free game or something like that. But in that sense, then it's expanded. But it's early on, like the alien technological, almost like bioorganic metal was like,
exactly.
Oh, dude, we gotta put that element. But at the same time, so you look at Deathshroud's face, he still looks like a skull. He still looks like death. So he's all those elements, and we were like. Chad was like, "How about 4 eyes?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what Warframe had." I was like, "Yeah, 4 eyes." And they all work. They work, and then which ties into kind of like the other aspect of what Deathshroud is, the angelic elements and the eyes that certain species have, and so yeah.
Caanan, do you remember Caanan? Sorry, fuck, Caanan. Before the show, I keep pronouncing Canaan's name wrong. Oh my god. So do you remember the boots? So his current boots were actually originally in the original design were so much more elaborate, and actually one of the coolest things about the character. And I wanted him to scale it back because my fear was this is so crazy that it will be maybe competing with, like, your eyes will go to the boots first. And I'm like, I want it to go from like the face and the chest. And I would feel bad for all the artists for each panel having to draw the intricacy, but there was like this such an elaborate crazy skull that was like on his knee pads. It was so cool. For like a poster or something, I think it was really cool. But pretty much out of the gate, you rock that design. Let me ask you a question, because I don't recall, what was the inspiration again for, you separated the plates on his face, which is, I absolutely love. Like, there's not too many shots where you get to see like him without his hood, and Ken made point of, there's like this, I won't spoil it, there's a scene where he's, let's just say, recharging, and he's got his cloak off, so you can see like the separations of all the plates. But because I can't remember, like what inspired you to separate that kind of those platings?
It's like I said, we mentioned Warframe, like it was the elements of like still creating a skull, but still making it feel alien. I mean, you could say even some of the inspirations of like aliens, like how they would, make some of the, plates and the body parts, feel independent of each other. And, but at the same time, they're functional. Like, that's what people understand. Like, that's not a helmet. That's that's fake.
Yes.
So, it's functional. It's almost like, like the muscle fibers, like you see, like if you peeled skin off and you saw the muscle tendons and stuff like that, like those ports in his body, those things, like it's yes, it's an exoskeleton, but it's essentially him. Like, it's just his physical body. Like he goes through a transformation, man. That you just can't, like, at least from what I understand, like cut part of his arm, and then all of a sudden you see, his skin under it. Like, no, he's actually that. Like, that, it's his body, so it's just shows up on the outside, so but yeah, then like all the plate armor and stuff like that, like I wanted to still be movable and functional. And that's one of the things, even in the lines in the suit, like, there's always those questions when you see characters that have like organic skin, Silver Surfer. He's cosmic, and so you don't really have to answer, okay, how is he able to bend his knees when he doesn't have like joint connections? Well, he's a Silver Surfer.
That's it, because comic books. That's basically the answer it becomes.
It was like, why do we need to explain that? But and then I looked at I thought about like Colossus, for example. You see the lines in his body. There's a lot of people. Some people draw it. A lot of people tend to try to shy away from it. But I always thought having those plates is practical because it allows you. If you think of like a Winter Soldier's arm, and I always think of like that scene in Winter Soldier where he grabs Captain America's shield and you see the arm like flex, like clink, 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 kind of thing. He's like that's kind of how I feel like Deathshroud's skin is. It's everything on him for the fans. Everything on Deathshroud is alive. It's living. So from his cape to his skin, to because it's all part of him, and it's all part of the ethereal energy that's on the inside of him. So as he flexes, as he moves, as he adjusts, you want to be able to show expression when he gets angry, pissed off versus, startled or, sad or frustrated. Like, that lends itself, those plates and stuff on his face lend itself to show emotion more effectively. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm going to ask a question to Chad here in a second, but I did want to shout out Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. Thank you so much for 5 gifted memberships on the channel. Yeah. You're awesome. Guys, I will try to hit all of the super chats and gifted subs and stuff like that as they come through, or rather at little break points in between the conversation, but I do want to make sure we try and keep things like organic and flowing. Ninja Stewart, one of the gentleman YouTubers who regularly features on our Rippaverse book review kind of like compilation videos where we'll cut together little clips of people's YouTube videos and such. Thank you for the 20, that is not dollars. Is that euros? Whatever that is. It's not freedom money, so I don't really care. Which is also basically worthless because it's a government item. I am so excited to read this. This looks like it will have everything I love in a series: escapism and immersion, cool action, cool story, gods, demons, and angels with amazing art, wicked and badass designs. Well, I can confirm, as I just reread through the whole thing prior to the stream. I was telling Chad, because it's been a little bit since I had read the thing. I had planned on reading like the first 2 chapters just to like refresh things in my brain. I wound up reading the whole thing. Mind you guys, this is just shy of 200 pages of book. I reread it in one sitting, just one hit. And it is a fast read. I know an almost 200-page book can maybe seem daunting, especially when you're used to much shorter books, even from us at the Rippaverse, right? Like ISOM 3 is our largest book. That was 144 pages. This is still bigger than that.
Yeah.
But just as with ISOM 3, those pages go by fast.
Yep.
Like you don't feel like you're just trudging through anything at any point in this book. And I do want to get to the story. But thank you, Stuart. I appreciate you. We appreciate you like crazy over here at the Rippaverse. Thank you for all your support, not just of our books, but supporting the channel as you have. I want to, before we dive into the actual kind of like more the meat of the story, and I'll show off some of the interiors and some covers, because the art is just out of control on this book. It really is, from the lines to the colors. I mean, one of my all-time favorite colorists, if not my all-time favorite colorist in comic books, is Andrew Dahlhaus.
Yes.
And he colors the vast majority of this book. And it's mind-boggling how good his colors are on everybody's lines that he touches. Yes. Man, it's so crazy. We got to get him on some stuff at the Rippaverse. Maybe we will soon. However, I want to pitch this question over to kind of both of you, but to you first, Chad, from the writer's perspective, because we talk a lot, or at least, well, maybe it's just me. I talk a lot about character archetypes and how it's fun to take things that you're like, well, I like this about this one, and I like that about that one, and kind of trying to turn it around, flip it over, and kind of like make your own amalgamation that is familiar to people who like that type of archetype, right? But it's its own thing. It's unique. It's not just Dollar General this thing. It's its own thing that took maybe some nods from those other things, but it's still unique. And I think that's because it could be really easy to rip off something like a Spawn or Darkness, right? Characters that are very iconic, have awesome concepts, awesome designs even. But it's more fun, and I think it speaks far more to somebody's creative ability to just pick the things that you really, really like about those things and then piece them together in your own kind of, this character is my jigsaw puzzle, and I get to, because I'm the creator, take whatever pieces from other things I want and try to put together a full picture here. What was that like for you when it came to creating the character of Deathshroud and wanting to, for sure, because the book and the character designs wear their hearts kind of on their sleeves in that regard, or rather wear their inspirations on their sleeves, but not in like the wow, he just copied this type of a way, but very much in the way of you could tell anybody that's reading this, if they're familiar with things like Darksiders, if they're familiar with Spawn and Darkness and things, they can tell that you are a fan of those things rather than, oh, he just copied this. No, you can just tell he likes those things and he put that into creating his own thing. What was that like? What was your approach? How did you go about taking the pieces of the things that you love and creating this unique and incredible character?
Yeah. So, I mean, Caanan had mentioned it before. I wanted to approach it with creating something that had a commercial appeal, which would mean, be something that's a little bit familiar, but with my, new, fresh spin. So to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't a character that is the son of death. So in that premise of like, what happens if death created life, and that is kind of the core. That's the core theme of this book, and Death's actions ultimately kind of sets forward an unraveling. But the some of the main themes that I wanted to explore in this book were from inspirations that were kind of touching on. This was right around COVID, right? And so Zuriel, who is I'd say the hidden / lead villain of the series, I wanted to capture my own Thanos. So he is the embodiment of law and order, and his view of mankind is that they've become wicked beyond repair, and therefore, he's doing what he thinks is right, which is we need to wipe them out because they're not worthy of the paradise that they've been gifted, and we need to rebirth mankind into a more subservient race. And he's a very powerful angelic being, but he needs a little bit extra juice to make that happen. So of course, who else can he turn to besides Lucifer? So he turns to Lucifer to create this machine that is basically the ticking time bomb that's going to wipe out and reset mankind. And with Death creating this abominations, or a Nephilim essentially, kind of throws a wrench into that whole plan. And Deathshroud has to come to terms with, and Caanan had mentioned it, like he's now this hideous monster, and he's got to embrace, he's been dealt a bad hand, and it comes with some pretty badass superpowers, but he has to come to terms with come to terms with what he is and make the decision of doing the right thing. And so that's kind of a reoccurring theme as well, of like the burden of power, going through transformations, being given a bad hand, but that comes with a bit of a silver lining, and it's ultimately what you do in those situations that will define you. And so Deathshroud is kind of follows that hero's journey, and ultimately has to play his role in good versus evil. But I never love I gravitate towards characters who are anti-hero gray characters, and I just find them personally the most interesting. So that was why I knew that my guy had to be this badass anti-hero. And then when writing the story, one of my frustrations with Spawn was that if you read Spawn from issue 1, it takes to like issue 80 something for him to be really badass. And he's kind of moping around and sulking about his transformation, and he gets his ass kicked constantly. And coming from the gaming industry, where I know people have short attention spans, people like high octane action like Call of Duty, Halo, they like that dopamine hit. I'm like, I want to create a guy who's badass. And I wrote each chapter so that I know that I'm going to have multiple action beats, so that you're constantly, engaged, and that I'm playing to my audience, knowing that, this art is super important. So I make sure that there's double spreads and lots of splash pages, because I know like some of the best for me, like Greg Capullo and some of these stories, you as a reader, you'll forget all of sometimes the intricacies of the story, but you'll remember of like, that was a really great story arc, and I remember these main beats. And then most importantly, I remember this splash page, you know what I mean? Or I remember this double spread. So that was like my approach to this of like, I want this to be, to your point, like a story that is fun, lots of action. I try to I think I keep it around five maximum panels per page, or I try to make that rule and let the art really do some heavy lifting, because again, it's such a visual medium, and I know who my target audience is, and some of my frustrations as well with Greg Capullo and Zack Snyder's Court of Owls is like they had like 8 panels, and Batman was always great. I love Court of Owls, and I love their whole Batman run. It's like my favorite Batman run, but I felt that there wasn't enough room to breathe for the art, and especially when you have someone like Greg Capullo. I'm like, I want to see a lot of cool Batman art. And so that's what I wanted to make sure that's what I was doing, and going in, exactly what you're signing up for. So that was the objective. And then when I first wrote the first draft of the script, it was a little bit more loose. And then as I knew that I'm taking Deathshroud and I'm jumping in with 2 feet, and that I'm building out this universe, I structured it so, again, I don't have a background in writing or anything. So I just leaned on like my experiences of, let's say, like project management, et cetera. So I built out the story like a project. So I'm like, okay, I know that this is how the story ends. And now I'm going to map out all of the critical, like, key milestones to get to that, to the end. And then work kind of backwards. So I built out like a chart, and each chapter, so I could see it visually. And I built out a chart and be like, okay, so here's like the main storyline. Here's the sub storylines. I know that I want like 2 action beats per chapter. So I lay out all of the blueprints for that. And then that kind of helps make it a little bit easier when then like you're putting pen to paper and writing out each chapter. Cause it's like, I already know that, I need to have an action beat at this part in chapter and this part in the chapter. And I know that I have to have a double spread here. So I had kind of the skeleton for that. And that kind of helped me through that process, as well as ensuring, because initially the plan was to release it like a single issue floppies on like a monthly or bi-monthly type of a deal, which was probably very naive at the time. So therefore I knew that there had to be a bit of a hook, right? So I tried to like make at the end of each chapter, you're left wanting more. But yeah, that was kind of my approach. I remember when I first also wrote the first chapter with Caanan, it was challenging because there was a bunch of stuff that got cut, and there was a bunch more background on Deathshroud as a kid, and seeing kind of the challenges that he was going through, further kind of character development. But it's like having to keep within that budget. I had to make the decision of like, okay, again, going back to making the decision of how an audience isn't going to, I don't think an audience will sometimes remember all of the tiny intricacies. So like, okay, I'm going to cut some of that, leave more room for action, which near the end of chapter 1, there's a bunch of action and beautiful, like, scenes of Caanan having Deathshroud kill a bunch of shadow demons and stuff like that. So I wanted to give that more
beautiful.
Yeah, I wanted to give that the breathing room it needed. So, and originally it was going to be a little bit more linear, and so it took longer to see Deathshroud. And I remember, I don't know if I think it was Batman, the third Batman movie with Christopher Nolan's Batman. And I remember hearing at the time, like, fans complaining about, oh, it took so long to finally see Batman.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and kind of bouncing it off friends, they're like, well, you should, as a new IP, like, let's get to, like, what is Deathshroud? People are buying this because of how cool it looks.
Yeah.
Let's just get to that right away. So we ended up splicing the story instead of it being kind of a linear process to Deathshroud becomes Deathshroud right away, and then you get to see him, and then we kind of jump, you know, back and forth a little bit. But so, yeah, it was. I learned a lot doing the first process. I had some editors that I learned a lot from as well, and then just, you know, you learn from doing research online of how to kind of help tell a story. But I will say that as a creative, trust your gut, because I think, like, sometimes bouncing off and second guessing yourself can work against you. And I think, like, if you have some close people that you can trust their objective opinion, it's always great to run it by, but also treat it with a grain of salt too, because they're not as invested in that story. So, you know, I would always recommend definitely trust your gut. It's always good to bounce ideas off of others, but you know, if you're getting kind of a mixed reaction, and obviously you're vulnerable too, right? Because, like, you're a little bit insecure, or at least for me, and it's like, what do you think? And if they rip on it, or, you know, you're just like, oh shoot, and then you can emotionally react to that and then change things, when it's just like, you need to take a little bit of a breather, sleep on it, and then reapproach it with a fresh perspective, and definitely don't do anything from an emotional reaction. Take their feedback, let it sit, like, stew on it, and then come back like a day or so after. But I think I remember too, like, in the original designs, we were going to have, and Caanan, I don't know if you remember this, but each character was going to have, like, their own glow color that was going to be associated with different forms of energy. I don't know if you remember that. And
yeah, a little bit.
And we ended up near the end. I ended up just kind of scrapping that, and then just having it so a lot of death association was green. So that's why, like, Caanan, he's got, like, the green jewels and the glowing orbs out of them, and death. So the river sticks, you'll see. I think that art's already out there, but you'll see, like, some kind of world building shots of Death's domain, and you see the river Styx, and it's green, and that was totally influenced by Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, with the green spirit soldiers that help them win the battle.
Oh yeah, the army under the mountain. Yeah.
Yes. And we've never shown Death's face. King did a mock-up of Death's face, and I don't know, still to this day, I don't know if I'll ever show Death's face or not. But
so long, I'm so used to the hood, I forgot that it was actually a face for him.
Yeah, he did it's really cool. It's got a really cool face, but I just love, again, from Lord of the Rings, the Nazgul. I just love the mystery of, like, what is under that hood.
It's actually more terrifying, man, if you think about just that black open hole, like a void. You know what I mean?
That, and then obviously that also influenced Diablo. Like, the Diablo angels are heavily influenced from the Nazgul as well. And then Caanan, there's a shot at the end of the first chapter, which is such an iconic shot of, like, Deathshroud standing over a bunch of dead shadow demons, and he's got his cape, and his cape is, like, floating up in the air. And that was specifically to represent, like, angel wings, because, again, he's half angel, and it's like the cape. We don't have, like, the typical angel wings. Everyone kind of has, like, cloaks. But Caanan was like, well, what if we, since we're not doing, like, the traditional type of, like, angel wings, what if, like, their cloaks sometimes mimic like wings. I'm like, love it, let's do it. So yeah, that splash page at the very end is
at the end of chapter 1. That is a man. I would say Chef's Kiss, but it feels redundant with Caanan's work because it's every panel he does. But it is Chef's Kiss, guys. Like the book from Caanan's first chapter through my boy V. Ken Marion's last. The book is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
From not just page to page, panel to panel. And I can't say enough good things about this book, both on the storytelling and the visual side. Every single chapter ends. You were just talking about how your initial vision was to release them as single issues, like floppies. And it reads that way in that, like, each chapter does have a proper, like, there's your cliffhanger ending that makes the audience ask what's next. Right? Because that's what you want your audience to do. When they finish that last page, they want to know what's next. You want them to want to know what's next and be asking what's next. And that's something you accomplish very well all the way up through the end of this first volume. Caanan, what was it like? So we just got a bit of from Chad, like how he went about creating something that was familiar but unique. Give me the process, because you've got some character design chops, and you had a hand in the design of, well, not just of Deathshroud, but several of the characters in this. How did you approach knowing and understanding, I'm sure through conversations and back and forths that you had with Chad as to what his vision was, finding that balance between familiar, but this is its own unique visual thing?
Yeah, that's kind of like something that I like to do when it comes to, like, even when somebody, has a character and they're like, hey, we want it to be XYZ. Well, I never like to, like, literally copyright off of, something. So I always try to add something that's kind of like a spin or a twist to it. And there's, up until Deathshroud, there's been different versions of, dark anti type, you said Hellspawn, other than Spawn, Marvel has plenty, DC has plenty. But we wanted to, I know Chad, like I said, really just tapping into his love of the two types of characters, Spawn predominantly, and then also Venom, like taking those two elements, man. And I think what helped too was knowing that he wanted, and myself included, give an alien angle to it. So that kind of like opened the spectrum up a little more than simply drawing from, classic art of, death or skulls or, gothic stuff, demons, stuff like that. But when you add an alien element to it, which is why I mentioned earlier Warframe, I was like, yeah, like that sets Deathshroud apart in his look and feel. And so basically from the creation, I think we actually made Death first.
I can't remember. Honestly, I can't remember. You did it. So for the record, Caanan did a bunch. So he did Thralgath,
yes,
the Angels, and then broke out Zuriel, who's like the leader of the Archangel Council. He did the Shadow Demons, which went through two major. The first version that he put forward, I think. You were a little bit drunk on the Dragon Ball Z at the time, and I'm like, okay, let's go in a different direction.
Yeah.
And then Death, so Death, Throgath, and then Charon. Charon is one of my favorite characters in the whole series.
Yeah,
and that was a really character that was really important for me to nail. And again, like totally inspired by Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy 2, and the skin, at the end of Hellboy 2, that like bird angel thing with the wings with the eyeballs, and it was like his face skin. that was like that's the embodiment of the Charon's kind of texture, and he killed it. Like, I just love he's my Obi-Wan of the series.
I was literally about to say, like,
Yeah.
Sharon does absolutely feel like the Obi-Wan to John Azrael's Luke Skywalker.
Totally.
That was like I said, that was, I think, helped in conceptualizing the characters. That we, like I said, we had the paranormal and the demonic, the demon aspect of it, but taking the alien aspect of it really made the concepts feel like their own. Like Charon, like he has Pan Labyrinth vibes, but at the same time, he feels alien. He feels like a Star Wars alien, like
Right.
like that Star Wars alien. He's ugly as crap, but he's that dude that has the like hook body. He's like that. His head comes out like this, and he's got these big eyes on the end, and you don't really see his mouth. It's like,
Yeah.
like this. Those just the alien creatures that George Lucas would come up with, and so kind of keeping that in mind with Charon, man, like he's unearthed. Like he there's elements that of course look familiar. He's got 2 arms, 2 legs, but other than that, like his skin looks like wood. Like it looks like tree bark, and and then I forget his name, the main bad guy with the I love it. Looks like he has an Oni mask on. What's his name?
Thrall Gath.
Dude, man,
Killer design.
Him, like, it's just like, and people are like, if you take that mask off, like, that mask essentially his face looks like that. He has this massive maw and huge fangs, but just being able to create everything, and kind of like, once we created, I think, Deathshroud and then Death, everything else you kind of established against like the science of the world that it's in. So everything will have elements of that, from the angels to even the demons. People who haven't seen, there's concepts art of people that are actually possessed with those said demons as well. I haven't seen it yet, as far as my knowledge, but so there's concepts of that people will eventually start to see and experience it. So it's a unique spin, man. Like Deathshroud was an experience of just creating something fresh and new, and I always love doing it, man. Like capturing whatever the creator's vision is, and Deathshroud, from the characters to the city itself, like Cobalt City, man, is such a unique. Like I said, if darkness and oppression just consumed the city, this is Cobalt. It's the city of, it's almost like, are there any heroes? Well, yeah, but they may not be as heroic as you think. And sometimes, to kill a must, you gotta get a demon. Do it. Vice versa. And so that's kind of what Deathshroud is, man. He's the balance. I know Andrew's a Godzilla fan, and I was talking to somebody recently, man, where Deathshroud, through death, creating Deathshroud is the quintessential answer to the imbalance. Deathshroud doesn't know that yet. He's finding out, but it's kind of like Godzilla. Whenever something shows up on the earth that is basically out of balance, like Ghidorah, like when he showed up, Godzilla was like, this is another alpha. I gotta handle this. And so it's like, everybody's like, why does he come out when XYZ happens? Because he's to bring the balance. Like it's off. So Godzilla shows up to get it back on track, so people remember who's the king, and then he'll go back and fall asleep in the Coliseum. Kind of thing. But Deathshroud, like he's that balance, man. He's that trump card, because in the world of Deathshroud, you have the angels are they're just as oppressive as the dark side of things, and so we need something that's an anomaly, that is a little bit of dark and is a little bit of light, to really try to regulate and really put both hemispheres back on track. Like, where you belong, and you're you're doing in the earthly things that you shouldn't be dealing with. Like that's not your place, and vice versa. And so that's where I was like, okay, well, like he says, well, come at me then, high and low. You will definitely run into more than you bargained for. And like I said, he's the son of death, bro. Like death comes to everything. So he's essentially the most powerful player on the chessboard. He's like the queen. She can do anything, on the chessboard. Like you can go anywhere, take any people. That's how, from his reclaimer to his own ethereal energy, man. It's like, but then again, he has his limitations because he's in the form of a human body. So it's still limited. So he's not super OP, but he is powerful.
Yeah, he is. He's powerful. He's got some really cool powers that throughout the course of the story, he gets to start slowly learning about and get to see some cool training montages with phenomenal panels by the Ken Marion and colors by Andrew Dahlhaus, which looks fantastic. I'm going to quickly hit a couple of super chats here. Then, because we have way more people right now in the chat than we did when we started and I first played the trailer, I'm going to play the trailer again after that, and then I'm going to toss another question over to Chad.
Sweet.
So let's start with Marcus Henry. Thank you so much for $10 American. I appreciate you sending freedom money. I can't remember the last time I was this stoked for a comic I knew nothing about. Love the aesthetic. I'm right with you there, aside from not knowing anything about it because I've read the whole thing. And I have the individual, like the smaller volumes from prior to us taking it over here over at RippaSend and being able to partner up with such a great creative like Chad, who, by the way, I'll put this out there. This was Chad's first comic book he wrote. It doesn't read like this is Chad's first comic book that he wrote.
Yeah, I agree.
From the pacing of the story to the, like, where he put his panels and just the overall story beats. Like, you could tell the dude decided to make himself a student of storytelling when he wrote this, because it reads like somebody who knew what the heck they were doing. Like this isn't just like pretty pictures and crap story. There are a lot of those. This is like pretty pictures and really great story as well. So the art and the story actually pair in terms of quality to each other. So you now know at least that much, Marcus Henry. Thank you for the $10. I appreciate you. Rise Art, who is a very talented artist in his own regard. He put out a really great headshot piece of our girl Yaira. I believe it was earlier this week. So shout out to you for $5. I don't know what that is. Look, I only spend freedom dollars. If it doesn't have a bald eagle on it, and one of the American presidents, I don't know what it is. You might get lucky with €1 with me. Might. But thank you for the $5. Only the most beautiful people in this world can read this message. Rippa hugs to Rippa family. Oh, well, I don't know why I was able to read that, but thank you, because everybody in the chat, I'm sure, was able to read that, because the Rippaverse chat are all the most beautiful people in the world. So thank you for that. And that's enough sappiness for me. I'm going to hit the trailer right now real quick, and then I'm going to toss another couple of questions at you fine gentlemen.
My story should have ended on that mission. But somehow, I survived. Turned into some creature from my nightmares. The world I once knew is lost. My very existence is a threat to a cosmic order I didn't know existed. If heaven and hell want me dead, I won't go quietly.
Shout out to the video team for a really badass trailer. And
That's great, eh?
that voiceover is, man, that voiceover's phenomenal. That's fantastic. I love that trailer. That trailer kicks ass without any question. So here's, speaking of questions, we've talked a lot about the creation of and the designing of these ethereal, super powerful beings like your John Azrael, Deathshroud, like Death himself, like Zuriel, and Sharon, and so forth. But stories are more than just the super powered beings in comics. There's also your supporting cast that plays an integral role in the lives of your characters. And in the case of Deathshroud, you have John Azrael's fiance, Elizabeth, right? And you have Rick. So tell me a little bit about balancing those characters who are much different from the rest of the main cast that we follow throughout most of the book, and how you wanted to layer in, because you do it and you do it very well, not just having them like show up for a panel or two just to remind us that they exist. No, they actually have impact. And it's clear that they also have, even though we don't see their history with John, we understand their history with John through their interactions with him. So walk me through creating those very important, like, part of John's, I mean, you can elaborate on it far better than I can, but part of John's decision to like fight back against what's going on is because he wants to protect Elizabeth. Like, yes, he wants to protect the world, but he wants to protect the world because Elizabeth's in it. Not just the world for the world's sake, right? So walk me through that.
So first off, thanks for actually saying that I executed that well. It was something that was very daunting once I got into it. There was actually a ton of their story that I had to cut. And again, I had to make the decision of like screen time of Deathshroud versus screen time of the supporting cast. And I ultimately went with the decision of like, okay, people are paying to see Batman. They want to see the Batman. I'm going to give the screen time to Batman. But I knew that it was important to add a humanity level to it, because again, you're constantly dealing with basically celestial beings that are super powerful. How can you ground it, right? And add a subplot that is also interesting, that plays into the main story that's taking place. And one of my frustrations of the typical tropes of, you know, they do in Spider-Man of like, is who is like, you know, that revealing that identity and always playing that as a constant cat and mouse. And that was something that I just didn't want to facilitate at all. And I just want to be like, okay, it's super important for Deathshroud, given the stakes in which he's dealing with, that he has the love of his life there as kind of an emotional support. Yeah. And so very quickly in chapter 2, they get reconnected, and he's able to tell her what the fuck is going on, which is absurd. And obviously I tried to make it as realistic as I could in the situation of like, hey, by the way, I'm the son of death, and all of this celestial, you know, heaven and hell is real, and you're going to be in danger. So I tried to make it as, if putting myself in that other shoes, trying to make it as realistic as you could if you're being dumped that amount of information on. So she's still a little bit hesitant of like, I'm not quite sure if I believe all of this, but at the same time, you know, things that you shouldn't, and you keep showing up conveniently and saving me. So, you know, what is going on there? And as well as with his best friend, there was, Detective Rick Carter was actually supposed to be in chapter 1 with Caanan, but I had to cut it. And early on, he was, the story was actually going to start with him, kind of seeing demons and kind of setting that stage. But again, I had to cut all of that. And from the get-go, I always envisioned Rick Carter as Idris. How do I say his last name? Idris. Yes, yeah. I just love. He's Luther. Like I love. I love him as an actor, and he was also in Cyberpunk. Yeah, he's also in Cyberpunk Mansion. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of like who I'm in when I'm writing. I'm writing for that type of for him. And there's some parallels, again, reoccurring themes of like, transformation, being dealt a bad hand, and then being put in that situation. What do you do with that defines you? So it's, again, he's this Commissioner Gordon, good cop in a corrupt, horrible city. And he goes through something that is, I'll avoid spoilers, but something that transforms him a bit. He's still mostly human, but transforms him. And again, he's dealt a bad hand, and but it gives him a little bit of a leg up. And it's like, again, coming to terms with that situation, and then using those powers to do good. So that we hope. We don't know yet, but that we hope. And so then for that grounded story, I created my version of like a Men in Black. So I'm like, how do I, what could be like this shadow ops organization, Sector 4, which was a total comedic nod to Sector 7 from Transformers. So that was like supposed to be kind of a comedic nod to that. But so it's like this shadow organization, again, in this world, which is probably a reflection of like how I view things, of like everything is so corrupt. So this organization is basically collecting demonic remains, and they want to do experiments for their own financial gain, which is basically hybrid soldiers. So basically monetize like a new form of super soldiers using these demonic celestial bodies. And definitely inspired from District 9, if you recall, like that weapons manufacturer, and so definitely some inspiration from that. And now you have someone who's been harmed by one of these organizations, and now he's got a little bit of a leg up. And again, it's his potential to seek revenge and get justice for what for what has happened to Rick. But as well as like, there's always interesting perspective of an anti-hero, and like, can you go too far? So that's explored a bit. But I'm excited.
He does now have a bit of a chip on his shoulder.
As he should. But again, I'm trying to create a band of interesting Thunderbolts type of environment, and the movie Thunderbolts with the MCU movie. And there's, again, one of the villains who looks really powerful and big. He goes through a transformation himself, and there'll be an interesting conclusion to that in part 2. But yeah, I wanted to weave and have an ongoing kind of subplot that was cool, has a revenge theme, character, kind of a prototype of like a Deathshroud as well. He goes through some horrible transformations himself, and give it that human grounded element. And then with Deathshroud, which I didn't get to explore so much as I would have liked in the story, but being kind of an outcast, and there's some dialogue that speaks to it, of course, but he didn't really find, being that he was an orphan, he didn't really find his found family until he found Elizabeth, and he joined the military, which gave him a purpose. So he finally found that, and then that was all taken away from him.
Yeah.
And so that's why like Elizabeth is so important to him, and it's his only sense of belonging. So when that's kind of completely taken from him, and now he's this kind of reject of both worlds, right? So now he's like, if people knew what he was in on Earth, they'll hunt him, and then he's also not accepted by the Celestial. So yet again, he's orphaned. A lot of I guess you could say like body horror in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. There's like some pretty cool body horror with.
You're speaking the Saska's language, bringing that up.
Yeah. Again, really, like I was, for whatever reason, I was really disturbed with District 9, like when they were making them shoot. If you recall, like they would force them to shoot each other, like testing the weapons and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that was so horrible and haunting, and that was totally inspired and in my story as well. But I knew that she was a critical piece to kind of keep him grounded, because again, if you remove her from the equation, it's kind of like Superman in the sense of why doesn't Superman eventually become like Homelander, right? And he needs that humanity and him growing up with great, family that set great family values. And so that's with someone who's a black, like essentially he's special ops, right? So he's a lethal character, but it's her that kind of always brings him down to brings the humanity out of him. So, which is a weakness as well, because just like Lois in the Snyder version, Lois was a potential tool for Darkseid, right?
Yeah.
It's true. And for those inquiring, this is the lovely Elizabeth. I'm a fan. And I can see why John's fan as well.
Yeah, she had to be a
The man has
supermodel.
good taste.
Yeah, of course she had to be like this super gorgeous individual. The art direction was actually the model who was inspired was Elizabeth Olsen. You know, the Scarlet Witch from the MCU?
Yeah.
So she was actually, there was like an outfit when she was like, I don't know, doing press tour. And so I was like, oh, I want this to be kind of inspired by her. So that's who that's kind of inspired by.
I'm gonna try and pull up the I think you just shared it like yesterday, or was it today, on the official Deathshroud account. The cover is what I want to pull up here in a second. But
Andrew, I also shared, if you can't get it, that's fine. But I also shared with you a zip folder that has a bunch of Caanan's original designs and Ryan Stegman's.
I downloaded that, and I
Okay.
have it pulled up right over here
Hell
for next.
yeah.
I'm right ahead of you.
I don't think like people probably haven't seen 98% of this.
No, I bet they haven't seen most of it, and it's going to be super exciting for that to change here momentarily. Let me find that image. While I am pulling up this image of the lovely Elizabeth, why don't you give these lovely people in the chat the actual story pitch?
Yeah, sure. So the story follows John Azrael, who is a second lieutenant, and he, during a stealth ops mission, it goes horribly wrong, as it would, and he's transformed. He should have died, but he's transformed into this hideous creature. And he soon discovers that he's actually the son of death, as in death itself. And his very existence poses a threat to the established cosmic order. And he soon uncovers a conspiracy between heaven and hell that is set to wipe out and restart mankind. And he's got to come to terms with what he is and his new powers and ultimately prevent that from happening while also protecting his fiancée, Elizabeth Adams.
That's a great elevator pitch, actually. And it was just long enough that it gave me enough time to grab this image.
Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth. You can see what John sees. I see what John sees. I'm here for it.
Dude, that's crazy.
It's a simplistic but beautiful design. It's not overdone. Fantastic and great. So I love, people in the chat will understand the double meaning here. I love plot in my female character designs. I also love plot in my writing when it comes to female characters. And Elizabeth absolutely has both. So you get the best of both worlds. You get a beautiful character, and you also get very good writing around the character, both in her interactions with John and with Rick, the world around her, as well as just on her own. She's a very three-dimensional character. So props to you for being able to do that when it comes to an important character, because sometimes your love interest characters seem to just kind of like fall by the wayside, and it's like, okay, so they're just kind of a plot piece. No, Elizabeth is far more than just a plot piece. She is outstanding.
Thank you. She's an investigative reporter, and I wanted her to have to be gritty herself, and so she's not afraid, although she looks like a supermodel. She's not afraid to get her hands dirty, so to speak. And she's, without trying to spoil too much, but she tries to. Rick goes missing, and no one gives a shit because it's a corrupt, shitty city.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so she's like, and we don't know where. Like at that point, she doesn't. Her husband just died, or sorry, her fiance just died. So she's like, I can't just sulk in grief. I need to also, like, our best friend is gone missing, and I'm what's left. So she goes on an adventure to try to figure out and uncover what has happened to him. But yeah, she's feisty.
That she is, and I like me a feisty female character in comics. Here is some of that beautiful concept art that you just sent me that people are going to get their kind of exclusive first eyes on here, I believe. Talk to me about these designs, Caanan.
Dude. It's so interesting seeing the line art without the colors and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was yeah, I mean, you could tell, like I said, the influence of, I think initially with Death, he's more traditional, gothic, dark, kind of the Grim Reaper, but we wanted to add elements of, you mentioned Diablo and Turiel, whatever his name was. He's the angel that has the basically the black. I think all the angels are like that, honestly.
That'd be Maltheo.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
From Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. Yep. I'm a fan.
that was the inspiration with a lot of Death's look, man, like playing on that kind of element. Still showing that he's not angelic, but he is definitely not your typical he's just not, a floating spirit or a ghost or your typical Grim Reaper. Like, we wanted to show also that he had rank, which is why he looks royal. I mean, he's the only one. I mean, even Deathshroud is he's a hybrid of two worlds, but Death is Death. The chains, still like the elements of the gothic aspect of things, which really ties into, for those that read the first chapter, if you see his realm where he's sitting on his throne, and it's just these massive chains that just lead from the throne, and like all these different, like it's literally an edifice of just almost like you say like a monument to who he is, like it's just his whole thing. And we wanted to really show, like I said, like Death is he's the Reaper, man, but he'll handle what needs to be done. And so I really enjoyed coming up with that concept, man. Like it just, the whole hood kind of reminded me also of Cloak, which is why I did the line.
Oh yeah.
I've always liked how Cloak's mask, his cloak and stuff sat on his face. But yeah, I mean, Death is, I always think of how he shows up in, people who've seen Scrooge, in the Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
How he shows up and it's just like this no face. And to me, that was always more menacing, not seeing a face.
I agree.
Was actually seeing, like, if you see, like, I mean, granted, there's some insane creature looking things, man, but sometimes that lack of anything, because it lends itself to the imagination. It's like, oh my God, like he's this living void, and he doesn't show emotion. If he's angry, you're like, I can't tell if he's angry, I can't tell if he's happy, I can't tell if he's like whatever. He's just this presence. And that's how he should be. He's just in essence, and he shows up when he needs to. And when he shows up, things happen, and it's not necessarily.
And Caanan, you can see your going back to like the Warframe, like with the feet and like that organic, like along the arms, like you like. So there was the consistency of with Death and Deathshroud as well, of that kind of that alien bio design hinted in there as well.
Yep.
And as you can see here, the red orbs originally were experimenting with Death being like
The river colors, you to mention like each one was going to have their own color, but the green definitely was the way to go. The blues and the
I wanted to connect it to like the realm in which, because Death's got his own, like the Sandman, he's got his own domain, right?
Mhm.
So I wanted to be like, okay, his energy, and if it would have been red, then like I felt that would then confuse potential people too with hell. So I was like, okay, let's save that for somebody else. And then Lord of the Rings, right? The green ghost soldiers. I was like, okay, let's go in that direction.
I think the green was the right choice. I really like it. It ties in with the river Styx that you have in the realm that Death resides in. So I think visually, what wound up being the final piece wound up working beautifully, absolutely beautifully. His scythe is so cool.
So cool.
That was in the whole concept with that, man, was essentially it's the human skeletal system. Like it's you got the ribs, you got the spine, you got the skull. I don't know if you can see like the part where it attaches to the blade, his hands, they're actually wrapped around it, holding it in place. And then also arms and hands wrapping around the rib cages, wrapping around the blade itself. So it's literally, it's it's all the human bones constructed into an edifice of destruction. Because he's the Reaper of Souls. That's what he does.
Getting hit by this thing is anything but humorous, though.
Yeah, it's fatal on two realms, naturally and spiritually. like you're done. Like I always think about I always think of in fantasy there's a thing called balefire, and when people get hit with it, not only does it burn you, but it burns you out of existence. Mm-hmm. So you never existed, which is always like, dang, like you're dead in two different realms. Like you're just gone. You're physically gone, and then your soul is gone. So you don't even exist anymore. And I was like, that's terrifying, man. It's like, man. So, but that's what Reaper of Souls, man. That's what he does. So.
And then keeping everything consistent too, right? With like the orbs, like it's such a legendary weapon, which was or mythic, as they say. That was so cool.
Yeah, it's important especially with a character like Death, who's this iconic entity in fiction in general, right? And you did your own visual spin on him, and Death's scythe is such an integral part to his character, right? When you picture Death with a weapon, it's his scythe, right? Because he reaps souls, right? And so keeping that design visually consistent with the character's design was really, really well done. And it's such an important thing to do. And I love how it's all tied together. I love how everything's very visually thematic, with like what you mentioned, Chad, with the bones everywhere, and you got the hands wrapped up at the top, you got arm bones there on the actual blade itself. It looks it's such a great design. Absolutely love that design. So cool. V. Ken Marion has no business being as good at drawing as he is. And this piece right here, this is a really good, I think, look at Deathshroud's design.
Minus the cape and everything. Like I said, you still see elements of death. But then also you see that Deathshroud has, elements of other entity. And his design is more sleek, not as many, traditional jagged, kind of pieces of armor, man. But it's definitely streamlined. One, because it ties into his personality of him being military, so it has to make sense.
It's gotta be functional.
Yep, it's gotta be functional.
Or utilitarian.
Exactly. It's the knee pads, and all you need is pouches.
How do we have organic pouches?
Right. But he is. But at the same time, he doesn't look like your typical gothic. He looks very alien. And that was the whole thing. Like we wanted him to feel, and I keep going back to it, but that kind of what sets his design and concept apart from a lot of people who've, if they've made a Death's Offspring or whatever, it's usually that gothic or that, that kind of like cathedral kind of, intricate, kind of designs, the armor, we mentioned Diablo and stuff like that, but, adding that alien aspect, even with the ports on his chest, I wanted to show them almost like another set of eyes because he is angelic. And if people remember some of the biblical connotation of like the Ophanim, where they had eyes all over, stuff like that. And I always picture this is always eerie to me, but I love to picture it though. It's like if you're standing in front of one of those angels and one of the cherubim, the eyes were all over the place, and I always picture them moving. And as soon as you walk in the view, all of a sudden all the eyes go, and they focus on you, like all of them, like all eyes just, it's like, oh my gosh, but. That is those elements, man, of Deathshroud, man. He's not of this world, man, but he's not even tested necessarily of the world of where he came. He's kind of his own entity. He's something new. He's something different, man. And that's one of the reasons why he's a threat, to a lot of people, because they don't know, there's no line of demarcation of how to deal with somebody like Deathshroud. It's like, we never had anything like this. He shouldn't exist. So, there's the head. Yep.
Yeah.
I love the plates. Like, see how like it goes back to the back of his head and it's like protruding.
Yeah. And you can see where the lines of separation are as well. That's so cool. So intricate. I'm glad I'm not the one that has to draw it.
But I mean, it's very alien. Like it's like I said, we mentioned Warframe. Like that was the inspiration, man. Like he doesn't feel like just like a biblical version of like a demon or a Nephilim or something like that. It's like like you could take him and put him in the world of what is that? What was that game? Shoot, I just had
Darksiders.
What'd you say?
I think Darksiders would work well.
Darksiders, but also the
Destiny, man. Destiny would work well as like a hunter.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
Raid skin.
I was thinking of the what's the RPG that was made by the same people that did Knights of the Old Republic. It's always bad when they create it. It's not good eventually because it like eclipse on. There's a lot of bad but it's Mass Effect. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he could fit in that type of world too. But yeah, that's neat. But like I said, you could take him out of the realm of
now I'm seeing a little bit of Turian in him.
Yeah. Like you could take him out of those different realms. Like he's very alien to me. And that was really my intention, man, of the Reclaimer, dude. Yes. Yeah, that's basically if you took Death Scythe and manifest into a gun, that's essentially what that is. Because it's got elements of the Scythe, man, but it's also it's funny because the front of that, I was thinking of what's his name? Not Glaurung, but the thing that they use to batter the gates of Helm's Deep.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, the Mace of Morgoth.
Siege, yeah.
Like that. The face of that thing was like a wolf. It had flames coming out of it and everything.
Yeah.
That was kind of like my inspiration with the front of the gun. I was like, like that was.
I see it.
Yeah. So, and then like
it's a cool gun. I'd want it, but I wouldn't want to fire it.
Yeah, I think that thing's probably
that's a node to the lore. As a spoiler.
Yeah.
That's awesome. See, these are guys I haven't seen like all of the tell the Luther inspiration. It's really good.
Yeah, so Stegman did these. This is so obviously on the right here is Detective Rick Carter. Give him like very much the coat I wanted to be inspired from Blade Runner, the one with Ryan Gosling.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see it.
And then Elizabeth. Oh, that outfit was it's very close to what Elizabeth Olsen was wearing on one of her press tours she did.
Yeah, I like it. It's super clean. It's not busy. But I can definitely see the inspirations there, and they're great designs. And Stegman, You want to talk some of the best people that have ever done it, in the business. Stegman's fantastic. I loved his work with Kate's on Venom.
My favorite Venom run, man. Actually, one of my favorite comic book runs. Obviously, I'm biased. I love Venom's one of my favorite characters, but like that expansion of the lore with the Venom wings and Null, like such a great. And I remember I was like texting him about it for the King in Black. Like they really wanted that to be a showpiece of like the artwork. So he did low panel count purposely, just tried to do a bunch of kind of splashy panels. He really nailed that whole run that they did.
Oh yeah.
So it was definitely a dream. Yeah. So these are the Shadow Demons.
Yep.
And I think with like the long pointy ears and stuff, so like Caanan was on a Dragon Ball Z kick at the time. So the original designs that he did, which are cool, but they were too, I would say like too East Asia, like they didn't quite fit in. So I was like, let's do another round, and then I gave him some inspiration specifically from going back to District 9. Remember the aliens from District 9? And so then he took that and ran with it. And then because of the Shadow Demons, like see like the kind of holes with like the smoke kind of mist coming out of them here.
Yeah.
So
right
these
here.
these are two kind of like tiers. So this would be like if you're going back to Halo, you have kind of the grunts and the elites. So you have the two different kind of tiers of soldier, like because they're canon. These are the storm. These are like the cannon fodder of the series. And Caanan had a great idea. You can see it on the smaller guy. It's got this like retractable kind of bone claw.
Coming out of his palm.
It's that long.
Yeah, these ones right here.
And unfortunately, Deathshroud's mother. Spoiler.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
She to me was like, and I know you mentioned characters and stuff earlier, like the side characters, and like she had been through so much before her demise.
What a dark, like when I wrote that, man, I was like, this is like horrible. This is the worst outcome that you could go through. Like battling cancer, and like anyways, horrible.
Second chance, but she fought, man. She was she was
a mama bear.
Showing her, man, really just that mother instinct, man, protect her kid. She's like, ain't no way. And she did the best she could.
Carol, I don't want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it from you. And you know exactly why. You know what you did. I'm not going to say anything more about that. This for all you guys were talking about earlier with the mask and then his face underneath the mask.
Yeah.
That looks like somebody who, man, like he gets mentioned as like a bit of a zealot in the story, right? And so he looks like someone that if he wasn't a mindless beast, which he's not, he would absolutely be fanatical.
Like he was definitely heavily inspired, at least as far as I can remember, from like Asian culture. He essentially is an Oni, like in the I don't know if you ever seen. I know you know Chad. You should probably do Andrew, but the Oni Mushu.
I love that game.
Yeah, like that was like to me like he is literally the essence of that, and also and I don't know if I was inspired by it, but he reminds me of Revan too. And if anybody knows, as far as Revan, he's like my favorite Jedi, bro.
He's my favorite character in Star Wars, period.
He's like the precursor to Anakin. That's a whole other lore. But anyway,
he'd kick Anakin's butt 6 ways to Sunday.
Yeah, I loved this design. So like the art direction that I had given Caanan at the time was just like a dark, heavy, like spiked concept art of like a black, like an evil knight.
Yeah.
And then he, but it was a demon. And then Caanan brought this back, which as soon as I saw it, I'm like, this is perfect. Because like this is going to be my Darth Vader of the series and his arch nemesis.
Yeah.
And with the two different of like the Longhorns, which I was like, I want to keep it a little bit shorter, but like kind of the vampire face looking too, like a little bit.
Yeah.
It's I love the mask. Like,
well, it reminds me of, so this is where Caanan got away with a little bit of Eastern influence. It does remind me a little bit of an Oni mask.
Right.
Yeah. That's an Oni, and then also you mentioned Vampire. I'm like Legacy of Kain. If you ever seen that game,
oh yeah.
As he's transitioning to becoming, the vampire that he is,
Soul Reaver.
And I just love like the long hair, like he's got like the skullet. Like it's just so gross. Like it's awesome. Like he's just so gross, and he's for listeners, he is Hell's like chosen general. Yeah. And he's got a working relationship with Zuriel, again, who's the Archangel of Law and Order, and they're collaborating to create a weapon that will wipe out and reset mankind. And so this guy, even though he's Hell's general, he's also kind of taking orders from Zuriel, which is unique because, like, again, these two factions are supposed to be mortal enemies, but in this instance, they're working together. So, like, he'll actually acknowledge and call him like Lord and things like that. Because in terms of the power hierarchy, Zuriel is like a top dog. So
is a cut above.
Yeah, and actually, this reminded me. So all of the angels, their skin is the color of like cosmic, like it'd be like if you're looking into like a cosmic space, and that was intentional because at the time social politics was such at a high that I'm like, fuck, if I like have these angels white, or if I have these angels mixed race or whatever, I'm like, this is just going to be a problem. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to make all of the angels have no skin color, and they're all just going to be a cosmic, you're looking into space. So
and the design wound up being really freaking cool.
It worked out well. So yeah, so
Speaking
that's why. So this is Zuriel.
Yep.
And
I love it.
Canaan's the halo. Like, what was your inspiration for that? Because like I obviously gave you specific in terms of like the golden armor that was a little bit inspired from Diablo, but like talk to me about like your like a tangible floating halo with like that is such a, I don't know, like it's really cool.
I think there was it was a video game, and that points more to the weapon he's holding, but the game was called, I think it was called El Shaddai, and it was like basically you were an archangel or some sort, and you basically had to fight against like Lucifer and stuff. It was almost like it felt like an indie game, but the way it was animated or designed and rendered, very simple style. And like the weapons they created were basically made of light, so it didn't have like all the like intricate details and stuff like that. But to the Halo, of course, circle is completion. It means wholeness. And then the three orbs is like the Trinity. So then the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And then the one that goes around it is just like, it's also just like completion. Like it's the full circle. So everything is basically for him, for the angels are 100% like, thank you, Apex. But it's 100% symbolic that they understand, and he knows exactly what he's from. So the reader knows exactly what he's from, what he's created through and created as. He's an angel. He's a celestial being, and he's high in the order, as opposed to the others that you see. So he would be like, like you said, your archangel Seraphim caliber, as opposed to your guardians and your regular, everyday, the soldier. He's definitely high up on the council. So really wanted to establish that. So
yeah, you also notice too, like to show that, to demonstrate that visually, like the over the top like shoulder pads that are massive, and his armor, and then also he's the only one wearing this kind of feathered angelic like helmet crown, kind of like from Thor as well, right? But visually looks a lot more dominant than the other Archangel designs purposefully.
Yep.
Yeah, it comes through, and I love how intricate it is, because I don't have to draw the intricate designs. So I love intricate designs, as long as they don't look overdone, and Caanan's work never does. This is another bad guy.
Yeah. So there's a bit of spoiler on this art design here, but so again, the kind of a reoccurring theme in Deathshroud, characters go through transformations, and so this guy, his name's Abaddon. He's a Baron of Hell, and he's kind of like a brooding Hulk, enforcer, and he gets contracted out as kind of like a bounty hunter to take care of Deathshroud at some point in the story. And so I wanted him to have a simplistic design. So the design was inspired by the Hell Knights from Doom. That was some of the reference material that I gave Stegman at the time. And then the plating, actually, some of the plating on his shoulders was a little bit inspired by the golden armor of Thanos.
Yeah, I can see it.
And then, but I wanted the initial design to be rather simple, because again, this character does go through a transformation. Spoiler. The good news is that the design that you're seeing on the left doesn't fully encapsulate the full transfer. So there's more design elements that is not captured there, but he does go through some transformation. So he's a problem for Deathshroud and for Rick and Elizabeth.
Okay. Yeah. He was a cool baddie to watch throw down and throw hands, because he's a big hulking menace.
Yeah. He's just I guess what you'll take from that design is like his story has a lot more to come. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, a few more angelic designs here from Mr. White.
And
so good.
It's the ones that aren't like hierarchy. They only have one orb. Just because they're if you think about the Zuriel, he's actually like the chief. And these are basically like I'll say the underlings, man, but just lower levels. So yeah.
I also noticed that their staffs aren't as intricate,
as elaborate.
either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And same with their shoulder pads, right? Like that was the whole thing, like, the way over the top, like Warhammer crazy shoulder pads. Would be totally highly unfunctional. Yeah, they wouldn't be functional in real life, but for video games and comics and animations, it looks so cool.
Rule of cool takes precedent. I will stand by that. And here's one. I think all of us really. Well, I would be surprised if neither of you did, because you created him. But I really love Caanan. Again, he's the Obi-Wan to John Azrael's Luke, and his design is great. His design's great.
Boss. So you might not know this, Caanan, but Boss Logic. This was his favorite design and his favorite character of the book.
Oh, really? Boss Logic, man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's cool.
He said this character is like, I want more of him. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, you have to do a little spin off of him, man. Like give him his own.
Well, so I hint at it in the story. Andrew will recall, like there's little
He's
references.
Gone on a number of missions.
Exactly. Him and Death have been around for, let's just say, a little bit, and they've gone on a lot of different adventures over time. So
sounds to me like that needs to be factored in with your building out of the world, because I would be 100% here for it. Absolutely. Speaking of world building, that's a beautiful segue. So Caanan mentioned this, and you've hinted at it as well. This isn't just an isolated story.
Correct.
You actually did world building here that factors in plans for stories for not just Deathshroud, but for other characters that you created within his world. And that could include any of the characters that we've met so far, like Sharon, like Death, maybe like Zuriel. Maybe there's a story that talks about why he decided to go down the path that he's going on. Maybe that's a story worth telling at some point. And you also have other characters that are not even included in this story that you've already started working on. What was the world building process like? I will tease the character that you sent me that'll help build out the world more. But what was the world building process like? Because there's a lot of work involved in that to do it correctly.
Yeah, I was really frustrated by Star Wars. So in Star Wars, I guess you would call them the sequel, the one with Rey.
The sequel trilogy.
So that really frustrated me because it felt like that they didn't really know where they were going, and they were writing as they were doing them, and that really bothered me. So I wanted to make sure that when I was building out my world, that I was thinking so far down the road, even if it never materialized, that everything was accounted for. So if, knock on wood, everything goes, the stars all align, and you can keep doing this for forever and ever, you're always going to have a North Star that you're working towards, opposed to like how many sequels are kind of a letdown, and you're like, it was clear that you had only mapped out this one movie. And so there's, after part one, there's going to be part two, which is another beefy graphic novel. That's all the script is already done for that, and that leaves for more storytelling, which is another massive arc that's mapped out that would involve, I will spoil this because it's so far down the road, but it would involve some of my favorite characters, which is the Four Horsemen. And that's like, yeah, I love the Four Horsemen, and I have a lot of it's gonna be a really cool universe. But to take on the Four Horsemen, Deathshroud's gonna need some allies. And so Shadow Slayer, so the plan is also to do a series of spin-offs, short stories, so that each character has their proper breathing room that then gets woven back into the main storyline. So the first character that is planned is, his name is Shadow Slayer.
I can pull him up right now.
Sure. So the name Shadow Slayer is actually derived from, so these designs were from Vken. So this is his like normal kind of normal form. And the reason why he gets the name Shadow Slayers is actually becomes a nickname. So remember, there's shadow demons. Yeah. So the hell ends up giving him that name because he's killing so many demons. But he is a Nephilim, and he's again follows the trope of all of my heroes in Deathshroud's universe has a tragic origin, and they're all basically an anti-hero. So this guy is a Nephilim who at first will think that Deathshroud is an enemy. They will have realized that they are actually
kind of
friends.
Kindred spirits almost.
Yes. And that they will then need to team up to take down the Four Horsemen. So that's definitely spoiling, but it's far in the future, and there's a lot of that we'll have to still go into that. But from
see Vken's love for Final Fantasy VII and Cloud here.
Yeah. So with working with Vken on this, like I wanted to, like he loves Final Fantasy, and he loves that kind of art direction. So I wanted to play to that strengths, and he loves ninja type characters, and I as well. Like I love Ninja Gaiden is one of my favorite video games.
Oh gosh, yes.
So I was like, okay, let's make this type of badass ninja type character, and the design was I wanted the weapon to be able to be a jack of all trades. So it's obviously a magical weapon that he's gifted from a spoiler character, and it can morph into whatever essentially he needs it. So it can be like a fire bow that can shoot basically endless rounds of ammunition, which was inspired by the movie Immortals, the movie Immortals, where he has that crazy bow. So like Darth Maul, which is the double-bladed like saber staff, and then this one was specifically for Ken, which was the Final Fantasy giant.
The Buster Sword,
the giant sword, And
It's
yeah,
flaming bow and arrow reminds me of if anybody's seen Jujutsu Kaisen, it reminds me of Sukuna when he made that flaming bow, which is that was like epic scene. But yeah, that's crazy.
and so we wanted to keep it consistent with like he's got his glowing orbs on like the armor that he's wearing, and obviously to complement Deathshroud being blue, he's got this kind of like red dragon skin type armor. He lives on the complete opposite, polar opposite side of the world. So he lives in a made up East Asia city that's kind of like a Hong Kong.
Gotcha.
He's ultimately, you know, a complete badass that's been around for forever, and he's thought he was the only one as well, and he's been through war after war after war. He finally finds love, and he puts down his sword, and like that side of him is behind him. He has now a wife, a kid, but his past catches up with him. Both of those individuals get murdered. And then he's on a mission of revenge. And let's just say at one point he thinks that Deathshroud has something to do with that. There's a whole high action. It would be like a five issue, like 22, 24 page miniseries that would kind of complete his origin and set him up. And then he would bend right back into the main storyline of Deathshroud and help Deathshroud with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
I'm already here for it. When's it coming out? When are we putting it up on RippaSend? Give me now.
Thank you. Yeah, part 2 is the next beast, which I'm super excited about, and in part 2, you'll see Lucifer. So far, you Lucifer's kind of in the background, but in part 2, which is to come, you'll get to meet Lucifer. There's a conclusion, and it establishes and finishes that main story and establishes Deathshroud as kind of this lethal protector. But then again, it will tease setting up for what is to come, because at the end of the day, you know, Lucifer's still not happy. And
guys, I promise you, when you get to the end of this big beefy book, you will want to know what's next. You will have just finished going through an almost 200-page tome, and you will be like, where's the next 200-page tome? Can I have it now, please? And thank you. Also, shout out to all of y'all who have been supporting in the chat, not just with the super chats, but also people who've been picking up a copy of the book. We're at 750 copies sold now on the RippaSend campaign. It's fantastic, and it's going to continue to go and continue to grow. We'll be hitting 50K here very soon. So thank you, everybody, for your support on this. This has been a massive success, and I can't wait to see it continue to rise. This is a book you will want. Great story, gorgeous art. It's absolutely worth your time. Thank you, everybody, for supporting it, because it's an absolute blast to read through. Again, just to reiterate, I just, in one hit, read through the whole thing. Again, only intending to read like the first 2 chapters. And I was like, I've got X amount of time before I got to set up for stream and this and that, and maybe I should eat or something first. Nope, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to read the whole thing because it's just that good of a read, and it's that quick of a read, too. Again, it does not drag at all. The pacing is incredibly well done. You do not feel like you're just kind of like, all right, when do I get to the next like action part? When does something happen? That does not happen in this book. Something is always happening in this book.
Yeah, super high octane. That was, again, for the listeners, if you've missed earlier in the stream, one of my frustrations was with Spawn. And again, I love Spawn. This isn't a knock, but it was just, as a reader, what my frustrations was, it was a slow burn. And it took like 80 issues for Spawn to fight, like, was it Uriel or something, like this giant demon, and for him to be like super badass. So I was like, okay, again, coming from background of games like Halo, Call of Duty, all these things, I know attention spans can sometimes be short in today's age. So I was just like, okay, I want every chapter like high octane action, constantly moving the story forward, and then providing rich kind of world building with like there's specific great kind of half splashes of just kind of setting the universe and the landscape and kind of giving you a sense of the world that in which these characters live in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're almost at the 2-hour mark here. I'm going to pull up the poster that Caanan did for this campaign. And Chad, what was it like after, honestly, like several years since y'all had last kind of worked together, having Caanan back, drawing Deathshroud, drawing something for Deathshroud? Like, how did it feel to see this piece come in?
Oh, it was incredible, and obviously there's no one to do it than Caanan himself, and he had sent me kind of like a really rough kind of like layout, and I was like, oh, this is cool. He had the idea of like I wanted to be kind of like Caanan was like I wanted to kind of be like a movie poster and capture all of the kind of main players, and I'm like, that's great, I can't wait to see it. And then he sends me the line art, and I was just like, this is so crazy. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, Caanan never misses. And seeing, yeah, and like, every artist does their own kind of slight interpretation of Deathshroud, right? But I love, like the nuances of like the Caanan, how again, like the original designs of the spike armor is kind of almost a little bit organic, of how it's like twisting and coming out of his body. Like, it's incredible. He's amazing. And, for the part 2, we'll have to get him to do a cover for sure.
Oh yeah.
There's nobody that, like, again, I kind of feel like that it's always a lot of the times that way, and this isn't a knock to anybody else, but I feel like the people who are always the first kind of principle of that design is always the best, right? It's always like it's their signature. So definitely, Caanan knocked it out of the park. And the colors, and shout out to the colorist as well. Like, they did like great job of keeping it, consistent and in line with the art direction, and did a fabulous job. Like, I would use her on colors. Like, she's incredible. Like, that looks, I don't know about her, so correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but obviously she must have done stuff for she's done stuff for major publishers, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. And she's colored a bunch of stuff for us. She colored Great War Separation Part 1. She's colored several posters and covers and t-shirt designs.
Yeah, it's like super pro.
She does a phenomenal job coloring Caanan's work, especially.
Yeah.
She really knows how to work with Caanan's lines.
She's definitely like I don't know, a direct protege or indirect protege of his, but she definitely has Andrew Dahlhouse's vibe when she's learning, and she's ever growing. She's teachable. It's awesome always to see her come back with the finals. This, to me, man, it was how to say, nostalgic, but at the same time, like revisiting old friends. It's like,
yeah,
it was really cool, man, to draw them again. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was just like, man, like, wow, like, drawing Death, and then Chard, and then what's his name,
Thralgath. You got Zuriel.
Yeah, man, like, and just to see
Deathshroud's sexy mom on there.
Yeah, my approach to it was just like, let's tell him, Andrew and the rest of the Rippaverse fam. And when I draw characters now, like, I just finished a cover of one of our characters, and drawing them now compared to when I started, because I really didn't understand. I wasn't really familiar with it, but the more that I've drawn them, like now, not only, they're drawing more like heart behind it. Not that I wasn't into it earlier as far as like Deathshroud, but now that I know the character and understand it, and times and techniques and stuff that I picked up on and I've learned, like, it's always it just feels more like how I always wanted it to look. And so, I said, being able to go back to these characters, man, and creating a poster to really like make them shine, man, was, I was over the moon. So I loved every aspect, man. I really wanted to make sure everybody got a cinematic feel, and of course, Deathshroud being the highlight. You know,
Is
He looks so good.
Is he standing on parts of the plane?
he's actually standing. You know, it's almost like it could be like part of a building or a rock. It's
Okay,
just
okay.
like to show like the above the world and then below the world, like you see where the demons come from. They're from the pit. What I'm saying.
I love that. I love that you had the demons with his like claws wrapping around.
Yep.
So
And then
cool.
his where the rest of the cast are is actually part of his cape, and they're just kind of like inside of it, just kind of like a montage of everybody together, man, just kind of showing them, in all their glory, man. And of course, Cobalt City in the background, with the the moon and the gritty nature of the city. So I really wanted to just kind of capture everything, man. And I said, man, Deathshroud is a special place, man. He's an amazing character. Being able to help, you, Chad, bring this to life, man. And of course, you got to put his fine mom on there, man. You got to put her up there.
Mama Deathshroud.
She was integral too in his life. And I was going to say earlier, like, even though everything was taken away, like, just her self-sacrifice, man, is that little bit of light, man, that just kind of like it's in him.
Mm-hmm.
Which even under
you can see where his protective nature comes
exactly
from.
protecting his fiance, like it's still nature and the character of his mom comes through. And I don't think he'll ever truly lose that, even if he wasn't even aware. The seed was deposited. So, and I think Death saw that and taking those aspects of that and creating him was essential. So
yeah, what a tough life she had.
Yeah, man.
She had a rough go. She did have a rough go. That's about as mild away as I could put that. Guys, this poster by Caanan White and Candace Hahn, you can get as part of the Deathshroud Forged in Shadows campaign over on RippaSend. It's $25 for a beautiful addition to your geek wall. Highly encourage it. It's Caanan White art. Candace Hahn's colors absolutely make this just an incredible piece. Grab it along with any one of your favorite covers and the t-shirt or the I Want It All pack and just say, look, I can't pick. Everything looks awesome. Well, we have the I Want It All pack for you to make it much easier on you. So grab that. That's what I'm getting. Chad, give us the full, not the elevator pitch. Give us the full, before we get out of here, Deathshroud, Forged in Shadows, Part 1 pitch. What can people expect? Why is this a cool story? Why should comic book fans buy into this?
All right. So Deathshroud is the perfect time to be rejuvenated because we live with, emerging massive titles like Diablo 4, the resurgence of Exile with Exile 2, Last Epoch. From kind of film perspective, we got big hits like the first Joker, the success of Venom, although the story was kind of not great, and Deadpool. So now is a perfect time to reintroduce a new edgy anti-hero character that bleeds from some of these awesome familiar IPs that we all cherish and love. And I think I myself and all the contributors to it did a great job of bringing to market, even though it's an indie book, a AAA product that I feel stands shoulder to shoulder to major event books that you would get from Marvel and DC.
Yep.
And something that I'm super proud of. It deals with, a bunch of complex themes of death and transformation, burdens of power, the gray between good and evil, and that ultimately everything isn't always black and white, and it's sometimes you're dealt with bad hands in life, and it's what you do with those that will ultimately define you. And so if you're in for a high octane anti-hero that is I think really, brings a fresh perspective on some of these familiar IPs and worlds that we love, then I think that Deathshroud is going to be for you.
That's about as good a pitch as I think anybody could have given. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for supporting this project. This project has been a massive success. I know it's going to continue to be. It's still going to be rocking for a little over another month, through I believe it's August 29th. Caanan, I want you to also give us a quick pitch on this. Based on yourself as an artist, as a kind of a integral part of creating this character, you had the visual hand to bring Chad's vision to life, right? Send us out of here with a pitch for why this comic book is important for people who actually just love comics.
That kind of pitches itself. Like, if you just love comics for the story, you want something exciting, gritty, dark, and interesting and mysterious and full of action, Deathshroud is definitely that thing. Mixing the ethereal, practical, man. If you like goth and chains and action and gore, if you're a fan of the Spawn type of the comic book, Deathshroud has all of that, complete with solid story, intricate characters. Characters grow, they develop, they evolve. Some die, some reborn. It has it all. Deathshroud is such a fresh character definitely in a world, in the market where there are a lot of knockoffs. He is the genuine article. Chad's come up with a story that expands beyond just this first volume, so you'll definitely want to stick around for more, because he's just getting started. The story goes much deeper, and so if you want story, if you want action, if you want amazing art, and I'm sure the art contributors will just expand, because it seems like Chad knows everybody. Stick around, man. Like it is a beautiful thing. It's an amazing story, and dude, it would be sweet to Bloodroof crossover.
I had teased that. Wouldn't that be awesome?
I'll throw that out there. But yeah, definitely stick around, guys. Support the comic. Definitely go to RippaSend, get your copy. And you're gonna see Deathshroud a lot. And God willing, even more and more through other campaigns and stuff. So, yep.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Chad, you got any final words for our lovely audience?
Well, I guess just kind of reiterating back to the amazing support. It's been a really challenging journey that I won't dive into. That's a whole long topic, but it's been a challenging
Check out
journey.
his interview on Icon Presents, guys. You'll get that full story.
Yeah. So it's been a long road. It hasn't been easy. So this, don't mistake this as just all of the stars aligned. No, this has been definitely a long, painful journey. Everybody's put 110% into it, and I think that speaks to the quality of product that we had, as well as even to what Caanan had just mentioned. The ability to have all of these top different artists contribute to it speaks to the quality of product that we have, because artists, just because you have a budget for a product doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get anybody you want. It's like they're associating their well-earned name and credibility to this product. So for to be able to get all of the awesome talent that we have speaks to the awesome story, the awesome character designs, the whole package. So you definitely won't be disappointed with backing and picking up Deathshroud. And to the point of what we said before, so much more story to tell. So spin-offs, part 2, then the whole arc that would involve the 4 horsemen down the road. So there's so much that we want to build, and hopefully, if we get really continued positive reception, I would love to explore like one-offs with exploring integration with like one-off with Rippaverse character or something like that. So there's so much we want to do. It just comes down to fans. Our fans digging what we're selling, but I think the reception so far from what we've already seen. And I can't wait for reviews to come in September as well.
Yeah.
Same.
Please do, like, if you do end up picking up a copy, I watch like a psychopath. I watch all of the reviews. So, even if you're going to trash it, I'm going to watch it. I listen to all the reviews because I want to know what the fans are saying, because ultimately it's that feedback that is super important, because ultimately the fans are what keep any creative venture going. So if you guys are digging something, like, I'm listening to that feedback and always kind of incorporate it with things moving forward. So please, if you do pick it up, please leave a review, as that will be super appreciated. But again, amazing support to date. It's incredible, really, because again, I'm an unknown, fortunate enough to have incredible talent lifting this up and bringing it to life. And yeah, you're not going to be disappointed.
Guys, I had no hand in making this thing. As somebody who's read it, you will not be disappointed. This is a phenomenal book, great story, beautiful art. Go pre-order it now on RippaSend.com. Pick from one of 4 beautiful covers, including a foil Ryan Stegman. We've got a hardcover from Brett Booth, who's one of my all-time favorite artists. I love his work. So check those out. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us, giving us your time. I know it's in the middle of the afternoon for everybody. It's Friday as well. But there was a bunch of you here for the vast majority of the stream. Yeah. And we appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for supporting the project. And we'll have to do more of these with projects, and we'll definitely do something when we're doing the closeout for Deathshroud as well. We'll definitely do a closeout stream. So we'll confab after the show and sort out scheduling for that, so that way we can have a great closeout.
And thanks to Caro again. Final shout out. Thanks for Caro for helping get this partnership forged and getting it over the line. So she played a major role in giving Deathshroud a shot. So huge shout out to that.
Caro has been a major champion of this project. She genuinely believes in it. So thank you, Caro. I'm going to send us on out of here with the trailer. Guys, look forward to a new episode of Control Z next week. We will see those of you who will be at Bell County Comic-Con. We'll see you there hanging out with the Iconic Comics crew as well. There's going to be a fun after party there with like cool challenge coins you can get that have the Ira on one side and Carly, Common America on the other. I'm super jazzed to get me one of those. And guys, thanks so much. We'll see you next time. I'm going to send us on out of here with the trailer. God bless and Godspeed.
God bless.
Peace.
My story should have ended on that mission. But somehow, I survived. Turned into some creature from my nightmares. The world I once knew is lost. My very existence is a threat to a cosmic order I didn't know existed. If heaven and hell want me dead, I won't go quietly.